Hello everyone, welcome back to Jyoti Rana's vlog Canada. Every summer, we hear about wildfires across Canada, smoky skies, air quality warnings, and even evacuations. Recently, many of us in Toronto also experienced orange skies caused by wildfire smoke. But how do these wildfires start? And why do they spread so quickly? And how does the smoke travel hundreds of kilometers? To help answer these questions, I am joined by Professor Martell from University of Toronto, an expert in wildfire science. Thank you so much for joining us today, Professor.
Thank you for having me.
Professor, could you please introduce yourself and tell viewers about your background and what you research?
My name is David Martell. I'm a professor emeritus at the University of Toronto and the Institute of Forestry and Conservation in the John H. Daniels Faculty of Architecture, Landscape, and Design. My formal education is as an industrial engineer, and my research area is wildfire management systems. There are many people with different specialties that study forest fires or wildfires. Some of them study ecological impact of fire. They're fire ecologists. Some of them study fire behavior, chemists, physics, and fire behavior people. There is an important group of people, social scientists who study the impact on people. My area is wildfire management systems. I'm interested in things like applying the basic principles of logistics to managing fire.
Yes. Oh, that's interesting. So, what exactly is a wildfire, and are wildfires a natural part of Canada's forest ecosystem, or they always considered disaster?
No, they're deaf. That's a good question. They're not always considered disaster,
Okay.
although many of the fires that people are dealing with now are definitely disasters because it's having disastrous impacts on some of their lives. But Canada is a very large country, and there's different forest regions, and those forest regions have different ecosystems in them. And the fires that are burning and catching most people's attention these days are in what we call the boreal forest, which is about a 300 million hectare swath of forest across the northern part of the country, basically starting up in the Yukon, going through the Northwest Territories and northern parts of Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Ontario, Quebec. And if you were to go look at the map of where all the fires are, most of the fires are these days, they would be in what we call the boreal forest. And the boreal forest is very much a coniferous forest, and it contains tree species that readily burn. So fire is an important part of that natural ecosystem. So the example that I often use is jack pine. Jack pine is what we call a fire species. It grows in the boreal forest, and when it becomes mature, it burns if it's ignited by a fire, and it has what we call serotinous cones that are closed and kept closed by a waxy resin. And when a fire goes through, it kills the existing trees, but it opens up the cones and releases seed for the next generation of trees. So jack pine is very much a fire species. If we were to eliminate fire from the boreal forest, we would not have jack pine. So when we have a fire that occurs in the boreal forest, some of them are destructive. They're threatening people's homes and lives and properties and timber resources and infrastructure, but some of them are not threatening any values, and they're just doing their natural thing. So some fires are natural, and some those fires are natural, but they're having a detrimental impact.
True. And how do temperatures, drought, humidity, and wind influence how a wildfire starts and spreads so rapidly?
So the forest burns very intensely when it's hot, dry, and windy. So what happens is if we have a prolonged period of very little rain, the
Hmm.
forest becomes dry, primarily the forest floor, the needles, pine needles, the moss becomes very dry.
Hmm.
And if a fire starts after several days of drying, the forest itself is dry and it will readily burn. And if it's particularly a day in which the relative humidity is low and they have high winds, then we
Hmm.
have fast moving, wind driven wildfires. And the kinds of fires that you've been seeing
Hmm.
on popular media are fires that are burning in areas
Yes.
where the forest is dry and it's probably a hot, windy day.
Hot windy day, yes. And how much of today's wildfire activities can be linked to a climate change, global warming?
So that's a good question, and I'm not sure what percentage of the fires
Hmm.
can be linked to global warming, but most definitely the fact that we're having more years with
Hmm.
more intensive fires burning more areas is most definitely a result of climate change.
Climate change.
That we did not have these problems this often in the past,
Okay.
but because of climate change, it's become far worse.
Hmm.
And if we don't start doing something about climate change, it's going to continue to get worse.
Worst. Yes. Many people in Toronto recently woke up to an orange sky because of wildfire smoke. For viewers who experienced this, can you explain exactly what happened?
Yes, if you see some of the television media coverage, you will often they will show you a picture of a very large, intense wildfire,
Hmm.
and it's typically there's large flames at the bottom and a dark smoke cloud above it. We refer to that as a convection column above
Okay.
the fire. And when you have a very intense fire burning in very flammable fuels,
Yes.
it builds up a very intense convection column, not unlike what you would have at a very small scale, of course, on a campfire. So what it is, it's a lot of lifting of hot air, hot gas, and
Hmm.
smoke up high into the atmosphere. If it gets high up enough in the atmosphere,
Hmm.
then it gets up into the area where it gets sucked into the upper level atmospheric winds, for
Okay.
example, a jet stream. And once it gets in the jet stream,
Hmm.
it can be carried for long distances. So we're getting smoke from northwestern Ontario,
Hmm.
and other times we've gotten smoke from Northwest Territories. Once that smoke gets up into the upper atmosphere and into the atmospheric wind, it will carry it long distances. There are cases where sometimes it carries it right across the Atlantic
Yes.
to Europe.
When air quality warnings are issued, what steps should people take to protect themselves and their families?
So they should seek the advice of health professionals.
Okay.
Uh, I'm a wildfire management specialist,
Okay.
so I'm not really qualified to give advice.
Hmm.
But obviously we've because this problem has become more common in recent years, we've had a lot of healthcare professionals have started putting their attention on it, and they give advice like whether or not you should engage in vigorous exercise outside during smoke conditions. But I would very much defer to healthcare professionals and say when they are cautioning you that smoke is a problem and suggesting
Hmm.
what you do, you should listen to them.
True. Thank you for that advice. What are some of the biggest myths or misconceptions people have regarding wildfires?
Well, that's a good question. Probably most people aren't aware that a lot of our fires are natural fires that are ignited by lightning.
Okay.
Uh, so in Canada, roughly 40% of the fires are ignited by lightning. And unfortunately, because they burn in remote areas and they
Hmm.
tend to come in clusters in time and space, they burn about 80% of the area that's burned. The
Okay.
other 60% of the fires are caused by people, and they burn about 20% of the area burned. So
Hmm.
so some people may not be aware that a lot of fires, and the ones that cause the most problem usually are the lightning caused fires.
Mm.
What are some of the others? I guess people don't appreciate that you can't put out a forest fire like you can put out a house fire.
Mm.
When a fire escapes initial attack and becomes 10 or 20,000 hectares in size, and it's burning under severe dry, windy conditions, there's nothing you can do other than stay out of its way at that stage.
Yes.
You have to wait for rain, and basically wildfire management agencies will mobilize firefighters and equipment and wait till they get some rain. And as soon as they
Yes.
get some rain
Mm.
and it slows the fire, then
Mm.
they can go out and aggressively try to contain it. There are some cases where they can slow the growth of large fires, even under severe burning conditions. They burn out the fuel in front of it. So if there's a river some distance away
Mm.
that the fire is headed to, and the fire will jump across that
Yes.
river because it's
Mm.
not wide enough. They
Mm.
can sometimes go use helicopters and a helitorch and
Okay.
ignite a what we call a burning out fire between the fire
And
and the river. And when the main fire reaches there, it's not as likely to jump across. Uh, I'm not sure what other misconceptions there are. There's a lot of good media coverage of fires these days, so there's probably not as many misconceptions as there used to be.
that's really wonderful and informative. And what advances in wildlife science or technology are helping Canada become better manage fires today?
Well, I think so. I'm going to give you a biased answer because I'm a researcher who works in this area. Uh, but I'll first talk about a research area
Mm.
that's not my area.
Okay.
Uh, we're fortunate that the Canadian Forest Service has a number of very good fire behavior specialists,
Mm.
and for many years they have been developing two things: the Canadian Forest Fire Danger Rating Index,
Mm.
that is, and I call it the fire manager's humidex.
You.
When you drive along highways, you see signs that say things like the fire hazard today is low, moderate, higher, extreme. That's telling you how hot, how dry, and the forest is, and how susceptible it is to burning. And that system was developed by research scientists with the Canadian Forest Service,
Okay.
and fire managers across the country and now in many other countries use that. So it's an incredibly important science innovation that those
Science.
people developed. The other thing that they have developed is called the Canadian Fire Behavior Prediction System, where
Okay.
they couple the daily fire danger rating with an understanding of what vegetation is burning, and they can make reasonably reliable predictions on how fast and how intense those fires will be. And that's another incredibly important
Important.
contribution that those Canadian Forest Service researchers have developed. People like me are
Mm.
interested in things like applying logistics
Okay.
to wildfire management problems. So one of the areas that my colleagues and I, primarily students, have developed
Mm.
is ways of predicting when and where fires might occur using the fire danger rating system developed by the Canadian Forest Service. The other thing we do is we develop models to evaluate strategies such as, okay, if we anticipate this number of fires occurring, uh, how many air tankers do we need to deal with that?
Okay.
So deciding how many air tankers
Logistics.
is not unlike many emergency response systems. Just like in the city, uh, they have to decide how many ambulances they need and where to pre-position them.
Okay.
Well, in the forest fire business, they have to know how many air tankers they have and where they should pre-position them. So my colleagues, and mostly my students and I, have
Mm.
developed mathematical computer-based models that
Okay.
can be used to help evaluate that. You'd have
That,
to ask other people valuable they think that is, though.
Yeah, yeah, that's very interesting actually, and very curious to know more about it. So, what inspired you to dedicate your career towards wildfire science?
Well, you'd be surprised. I grew up in northern Canada, and
Okay.
I had a summer job when I was an undergraduate student in industrial engineering, and I was working in a mine in northern Quebec. And I decided the next year I wanted to stay in the city, and the then Department of the Ontario Department of Lands and Forests, which is now the Ministry of Natural Resources,
Okay.
posted a summer job for an industrial engineering student to help develop a simulation model of air tankers. And I applied for that job and I
Hmm.
got it and I enjoyed it. And after that summer, I did an undergraduate thesis dealing with air tankers and I was enjoying it. So I went on to do a master's in which I studied fire management. And after that, I
Wow.
did a PhD. So it was a desire to have a summer job
Hmm.
in the city that got me into this business. But what kept me
Hmm.
there is uh, there's a lot of very interesting, challenging
Hmm.
problems, and the people that I was able to collaborate with were interested in developing and testing new technology. I've been my research has been supported by Canadian governments.
Okay.
Fire managers have been very willing to share their ideas with me. Uh, we deal with some difficult mathematical problems,
Hmm.
uh, but I've been very fortunate that I don't think I've really had. I've been blessed by opportunities rather than challenges.
Oh,
When I
that's
say challenging, I meant
hmm,
interesting problems, interesting puzzles to
puzzle
solve.
solved. That's interesting. Some people assume they are safe if the fire is hundreds of kilometers away. Is wildfire smoke itself a serious concern?
Yes, but once again, I would
Hmm.
refer you to healthcare professionals who will give you much better answers to that than me. But I mean, I know enough to know that wildfire smoke is not good, but you have to talk to healthcare professionals.
Yes, I will definitely do that. Finally, if there is one message you would like every Canadian and everyone watching around the world to remember about wildfires and about your expertise, what would it be?
What would that be? I guess that would be if and when you're in the forest,
Okay.
uh, two things. Don't don't smoke cigarettes while walking through the forest.
Mm,
Uh, but for those that don't smoke, the most important thing probably to keep in mind is uh, don't be careful if you build a campfire. First of all, when under certain conditions, the government prohibits the igniting of campfires because the forest is too dry. But
okay.
even when campfires are allowed, make sure you keep a small campfire. Make sure that it's tended all the time. Don't set a campfire and then go off for a hike. Uh, when you leave your campfire, when you move on, make absolutely sure that it's well extinguished. Put lots of water on it, stir
Okay.
it with a stick, stir it with your hand, make sure it's out. And don't be the person who makes a mistake
Okay.
and causes a campfire to escape and become one of these large fires that we're dealing with today.
That was quite interesting advice. Professor Martel, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today and for sharing your knowledge and insights about wildfires. I'm sure our viewers have learned a lot and now better understanding of why wildfires happen, how smoke can affect communities far away, and what we all can do to actually stay safe. Thank you for joining us today. It was a pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you very much. The pleasure is mutual.
Thank you so much.